Thank you for joining us here on PM Express. And in the last few days, the Institute for Statistical, Social and Economic Research at the University of Ghana has launched the State of the Ghanaian Economy report. It's a very important report considering where we are. Every now and then, we have to stop and evaluate how we are doing as a country, especially in the midst of this worst economic crisis in a generation. And so that's what we're going to do tonight, look at that particular report and measure it against the reality. So let's go through the specifics as the ISA had found in this report. And this is the 2022 report. And so a lot of the things you see is 2022, but also gives you a sense of the road ahead this year, but also next year. According to this ISA, Ghana's economy is showing signs of recovery. Do you see it though? And that's why we're asking the question, the reality check. Do you see the signs of recovery in this economy in your own circumstance? And they make the point that it's likely to grow by as much as 3% by the end of 2023, all things being equal. That's what economists say. We'll speak to those who feel, who live, breathe the economy, just to get a sense of whether their businesses are beginning to see this as well in their business and in the relationship that they have with their customers. So that then we begin to measure what the real situation is. They talk about taxes, right? The government's reliance on taxing production is something that they're flagging as hurting the industry. It's affected industry and promoting imports. And that's something you don't want in an economy that is struggling. Also worsening the already high unemployment situation. So that's something that they're flagging. And next week, we expect the finance minister to present the budget. We'll see if it picks up on some of these important aspects that ISA is also picking up on. And then, of course, the domestic debt exchange program. It's been very painful for a lot of people. Government, as you notice, it's been a bit quiet in the front of protests when that issue is raised, which means that government is keeping its obligation to pay the coupons as it matures. The main concern, a few weeks back was government paying the principals when they fall due. Government had struggled to do that, but paying the coupons as they mature, that's a conversation that is so very important. And the most important aspect now that the economy is having to deal with, the finance minister is having to deal with, is trying to strike a deal with our external creditors, which is proving to be challenging. But there's a lot of hope because the IMF has indicated that this is something that we can get. Now, if you look at the trend, the economic growth trend over the years, and I just want to isolate the many years, because if you look at 2021, we are in the full grips of COVID. We were at 5.10%. The government had cited this growth rate and said, even in COVID, we're doing well. But post-COVID, in 2022, the impact, the effects is lasting. And so you're having 3.1%, and then IMF is projecting 1.60%. That will have implications, right? If your growth rate, the GDP is that low, then the debt to GDP ratio becomes even more pronounced. We'll come to that because there's some discrepancy between what the IMF, the World Bank is projecting and what government itself is projecting, what ISA had also picked up on. Now, if you look at the state of the Ghanaian economy, the sectorial performance, you begin to see that agriculture, if you look at 2022 versus 2021, if you look at this, agriculture is not growing. It's not growing as much as you would expect, because in 2021, when COVID was still an issue, we were at 0.5% in terms of growth there for agriculture, but then it drops to 4.2%, and many Ghanaians find employment in this particular sector. And as you see, the services sector is doing really well. But again, even there, in 2022, it's falling to almost half of what it used to be when COVID was biting. If you look at the industry, and this is where the concern really is, but when it went into negative in 2021, and you understand why, because of the COVID situation, and it's beginning to inch back up. But this is pretty small. It's the reality being reflected on the ground. We'll get the sense of that pretty shortly. Now, this is a line here that for me it also says a lot about the gap between domestic revenue and expenditure. And you begin to see what's happening when you look at the domestic expenditure. Domestic expenditure is this line that you see here. and the domestic revenue is what you see here. Our revenues are pretty low, right? Our revenues are pretty low, but we are spending significantly high. And that's what accounts for this gap that you see a very huge 24% as of 2022 revenues coming in. And then you have 15.7% when it comes to 15.7% revenue and expenditure of 24%. That is a big problem. The key question is what is government going to do about this in the 2024 budget? Are they going to introduce new tax handles? Are they going to find a way of expanding the base? Are they going to enhance and increase existing tax rates? Nobody knows, but this gap needs to close. But if you pay attention to this period here, 2024, 2014 to 2018, we were under an IMF program. And in that time, you will notice that we obviously were spending below what we were earning, which is what should happen. You spend less than you make, which is you stay within your means. Your fiscal deficit won't be an issue. And which is what we had in this period when the IMF was wielding the cane over us as a country. The expenditure levels were controlled, right? Because we have the revenue there. For example, if we look at 2015, they about what we were at the IMF program, we were spending 19.2% of everything that we made, and we're making 22%, which is good. But this needs to be closed immediately, as the ESA had noticed. Then you also look at the fiscal deficit financing. We're financing from domestic sources about 85%. Now, ESA makes a point here that this isn't good because it has implications. Worsening fiscal position, inability to successfully consolidate the fiscal position, and this is due to the following issues that they flag. Fast depreciation of the cedi, we've seen that over time. Delay in the passage of e-levy and domestic financial conditions also then complicated matters for us a bit more, and ESA is pointing to that as key issues of concern. But this is one graph that government officials, including the vice president, had cited when they talk about inflation. What is happening to inflation? Inflation went all the way to 53 in January and has come down to 38.1%. Now, the key question is, will this trend continue? Nobody knows, right? The expectation is that it should continue, but we've seen that during this period, between April and May, it dropped, it went up marginally, right? So if you look at April, from March, it was 45%, came down to, in April, to 41.2%. And we expected that it was going to maintain. But then, of course, it went up marginally, climbed up to 43, and is beginning to come down from August to September. So all things being equal, the expectation is that this should continue. And this is really what you want all the way down. What's the target? Coming down all the way into the 20s thereabout. Is that a realistic target? We'll ask my guests when they join us. And then you have the debt to GDP ratio. And this is the part that has raised a few eyebrows. Because if you look at what the ESA had picked on, and this is according to the Bank of Ghana itself, they are talking about June, our debt to GDP ratio is 71.9%. The IMF itself, end of year debt to GDP ratio is at 84.1%. So that's very, very high. So that discrepancy, what is accounting for it? How is government calculating the 71.9% when the IMF is also projecting something completely different? And they, of course, we are under an IMF program. We need to get some reconciliation of these figures when we sit down and have a conversation. And then we look at the policy rate, which obviously aims at trying to deal with the issues that we've seen in the economy, and it's been going up and up. Inflation targeting is a key thing for the Bank of Ghana. And then you look at the exchange rate, which I've been talking about. It's 11.510%. Again, Bank of Ghana. But if you go to the Forex, it's a bit high there. And it's beginning to climb again. Normally at the time of year, going into December, we see this going up again. And this then begins to take a toll on inflation. So that's why I was making the point. Can you expect the inflation rate to trend downwards, considering that we're going to have the interest rate beginning to climb again now, December to January in particular? And as you see, the graph is beginning to show that as expected. And then you look at the recommendations that they've made, very important recommendations. And as I said, the government is now firmly having a conversation with the external creditors, what do you do with the debt that they hold? ISA is warning that this 30 to 40% haircut that has been proposed on Eurobonds will drive down investor confidence. Already, investor confidence in Ghana is very, very low already. And if you go ahead with this, it's going to affect that even more. Okay, so what can work for both sides? It's a very big question. We'll try and find an answer to that when we sit for a conversation. We therefore recommend a prudent spending is what the ISA is recommending. Reduce taxes on production and broaden the tax base. The 2024 budget will tell us a bit more. And then government should also invest to stimulate the productive sectors of the economy. What should this look like? More money pumped into that? Or what exactly will this stimulus package look like? We'll have a conversation when we sit down and ensure responsible borrowing. What really is responsible borrowing? That's the ISA State of the Ghanaian Economy report. What's your own report when it comes to your personal economy? My guest will dissect that after this. Express is always brought to you by Syntex Tanks. It is strong, it is tough. Alomo bitters experience greatness in every moment. And Ghana AIDS Commission. Syntex Tank is a tank I always recommend to you because it's the first to introduce a double layer tank. And now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntex Tank is the first to introduce white inner layer tanks in Ghana. We now introduce you to the customer specs order, which lets you order any color and size of preference. Syntex Tank gives you the longest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you in Ghana. So whatever your water consumption, size of project or demand, choose Syntex Tanks. We have agents nationwide. Call them on 0244 335 168 or shop online at syntexgh.com. Hey, you're strong, you're tough. My guest tonight is Dr. Richmond Atta Nkoma, economist and research fellow at ISA. They put this report together. Doc, thanks for your time here on PM Express. Great to have you. I believe this is the first time I'm hosting you on the show.
Yeah, Evans, I think this is the first time on the show. And thank you very much for inviting me.
Great. And I'll start with you pretty shortly because this is your baby. Stephen Amwa is in the studio with me. He's a deputy trade minister. And we'll focus a lot there because as you will notice, is the Dr. Stephen Amwa, soon to become lawyer.
Oh, Evan, stop that.
Yeah, I stopped.
Soon.
Seth Chumakwabwa is a CEO of Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, and joins us also live. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. Doc, I will start with you, not Dr. Stephen Amma, Doc with ISA. I'll start with you because this is your report. And let's start with the key issues that you found in terms of the state of the Ghanaian economy. Yes, we've just gone through the summary of it. But if I ask you to summarize in a few words, what is the state of the Ghanaian economy right now? Just give me a brief summary. Are we in good health? Are we on a path to recovery? Or are we still firmly in the grips of the crisis?
Okay, great. Thank you for the question. I think we have started recovering, at least looking at some of the macroeconomic indicators that we've seen, starting with the real sector, for example. We've seen some stability, especially within the agriculture and services sector. I think where we have a concern is the manufacturing sector. If you look at the last 2 quarters, so the first half of the year, for example, you will see that agriculture recorded very positive growth rates.
Doc, if you may raise your voice a bit for me, I'm struggling to hear you.
Yeah, okay. So services also recorded very positive growth rates in the region of around 6%. But industry grew at a negative growth rate, so it contracted again, and largely because of manufacturing. So what we learn is that manufacturing is very vulnerable to macroeconomic instability. And of course, also we have issues to do with the oil sector, instability in the oil production sector. So yeah, there are signs, very positive signs towards recovery, which is a good thing. but we are not yet out of the woods. There's so much to be done. Ensuring that we have fiscal consolidation, more especially when we go into an election year, because we know what elections can do to us when it comes to fiscal discipline. And so the key message then that we came up with is that government need to spend, but spend very prudently, very carefully, so that we don't add up to the already existing high debt stock, which has created a very huge problem for us, even in the area of expenditure efficiency. Now we're spending a lot of our revenues on debt servicing, all because we, over the years, borrowed so much due to high budget deficit. We are not staying within our means, and if you are spending what doesn't belong to you, there is a cost to it, okay? And that cost you have to bear, nobody will do it for you. And we've seen the repercussions, especially what we saw in 2022, the instability that we saw. It is largely due to the fact that we were not within sustainable ratings in terms of our levels of debt, and there wasn't high potential for us to also raise revenues. And so we became very unattractive on the international capital market, which shows up in terms of the downgrading that you saw. And so you don't want that to repeat itself. So as much as you can, if we could increase revenues, that would be great. But that doesn't come too easy, at least from the experience that we've had. So then it means that the best way to approach it is to try and manage your expenditure in a more prudent way. So one, try and increase the efficiency of the expenditure to block leakages and inefficiencies to do with our public procurement processes. If you're able to do that, then that creates some fiscal space for you to do other things, investing in capital expenditure, infrastructure, social service delivery, and stuff like that.
And there's something you also said I want you to expand on. You also talked about taxing production excessively is affecting industry. And we see that industry is struggling. I mean, the numbers tell a story. When you say taxing production excessively, what do you mean?
Okay, so let me start from this note. You know, when we had a change in government in 2017, the new government came up with, for me, a very, very good approach in terms of taxation and promoting economic growth. So they said we are moving away from taxation to production. And we saw a reduction in and even cancellation or removal of some taxes, what they call nuisance taxes at that time. And if you look at the fiscal data, clearly you will see that that strategy began earning or yielding some fruits. Okay, you would see that, of course, indirect taxes, revenues from indirect taxes started going down. And then you also see some marginal increases in direct taxes. Okay, but then overall, there was a slight dip in revenue to GDP ratio. Okay, and then COVID came, and then there was 2020 election. Then we spent the hell out of ourselves, okay? And then already the economy was almost at the cliff. And so then COVID came, and then we were pushed over the cliff. And then getting out of that quagmire has become a problem for us because it's come with downgrading from international credit market. You can't access the international credit market. You need the hard, foreign currency in the form of loans that we always take to support our balance of payment and support all the other things that we do here. So then it becomes a problem. Okay. So the best thing approach in the long term, all right, is for you to come up with fiscal policies that will also give space for industry to thrive, for the private sector to also thrive. And when they thrive, then they expand their contribution will be in the form of expanding economic activities.
And when you say that, and when you say that briefly, are you proposing reduction in taxes for them? What exactly? Just bullet for me. Let me hear from Sechu Makwaba, who is the man there. What are you proposing?
Yeah, so I think we have to be a bit selective, and I think in our HGR we alluded to that. That, for example, if you take the food and beverages industry, for example, right? That industry is where we do a little bit of process, and that's what we know to do best here. Okay, and so it's important that we support that sector in a way that will help us to create avenues, employment avenues for our youth. Okay, and so if we could be a bit selective in a way, even in terms of the way we do our VAT, there could be a special VAT regime. And mind you, it won't only help with the production side, okay? It will also go a long way to help ameliorating the impact, the economic impact and the high inflation for the ordinary Ghanaian. I mean, if you look at the JSS data on inflation, even as of September, end of September, food inflation was still the highest, it was in the region of 50% compared to non-food inflation, which was around 29% or so. And so the livelihood implications of that is really, dire, especially for the ordinary guy.
Okay, so stay with me. So just to bullet, you're saying, yes, it would be helpful to reduce taxes for manufacturing, but also be selective
exactly.
in which, okay, stay with me. Let me bring in Sechu Makwaba. Seth, I don't know if you've seen the EC report, but does it reflect the reality of industry right now? Because they admit your sector is struggling, but that's your sector too that we need to get this economy on the road to recovery more than most sectors. Does that reflect your reality right now?
Yes, good evening, Evans. Yes, it does. To a very large extent, it does. And I think the picture Doug just painted, it's true. We have a serious challenge in the manufacturing sector and industry as a whole. And I think that several factors contribute to this. And I'm not surprised that even though other sectors seem to have improved and stabilized a little bit, manufacturing still didn't do well at all. If you look at the past few months, from September last year, when we had the massive increase in water tariffs, it affected industry because it was such a sudden stock for some of the industries. Within a period of 5 months, one company, for example, accumulated a debt of over 10 million Ghana cedis in just water tariffs alone. So you can imagine the impact. Between that period and now, electricity has gone up by about 72%. So cost of production has been going up. If you look at cost of capital, as we know, currently the policy rates are around 30%. If you have a policy rate around 30%, what will the lending rate be? Very high. And even access to the capital becomes a challenge. And therefore, if you are borrowing at a very high cost and you can't even get the capital to do business. So that is also a factor. And then last year, when we had the challenges with the cost of feed going up, cost of raw material was also a challenge because a lot of raw materials the industries use are imported. So high cost of importation of the raw materials and the clearing and all that. It's also contributing to the cost of production. But even very critically relates to the tax that was mentioned. The tax system in Ghana today is not favoring manufacturing at all. There have been imposition of additional taxes. We have the growth and sustainability levy, which has just been introduced. We've always complained about the straight levy, where you charge 15% on VAT, but and then you can only recover the 15%. Meanwhile, government, you are paying 21.9% to government by way of VAT. So if you are unable to recover, then that becomes a levy on you. That additional 6% or so also adds to your cost of doing business. Compared to the general, of course, some of the big trading companies pay a similar VAT system. But a lot of them that are competing even at the SME level, they pay the flat rate. So that becomes a challenge. So a lot of the taxes are not going in favor of manufacturing. So if you add it to all the other cost areas that I've mentioned, it makes manufacturing very vulnerable. And it affects their cost of production. And we live in a very competitive environment where imports just come in. Our borders are not protected at all. Even some are smuggling the goods in, they are not paying the right duties. And therefore, they undermine the very capacity of local industries to produce and supply. And that has been a big challenge. So it really, it's a true reflection of what is going on. I've had the opportunity of visiting a number of our companies lately. From the beginning of this year, I've done a lot of company visits. And all of them, the message is the same, that there are challenges in the system. And indeed, they are not expanding. They are downsizing, or they are at best trying to sustain what they can manage now. So it's really a big challenge. Even though the intention is there to grow, I think some of these challenges are not helpful. And if you consider the fact that over 300,000 students are coming out of our tertiary institutions every year, these are the sectors, the agriculture, the manufacturing, the linkage between the two, the value chains. These are the areas that should absorb a lot of our people. But I think that there are serious challenges in this area. So I would say that the picture painted is actually a true reflection of what is happening in the manufacturing sector.
Okay, good.
I appreciate that some of them are global related, but whatever the cause is, the reality is what I'm talking about. And the reality is that manufacturing sector has been seriously challenged.
And just give me a sense of this. What do you reckon to be the biggest challenge? Is it the taxes?
No, it's in the manufacturing sector, a combination of things happens at the same time. Okay. In the business sector, if you want to solve one problem, other problems will also be there. So it's a package of things that must happen simultaneously. But if you're asking me to rank them, I can go by the AGR Business Barometer, which actually ranks the key challenges. Okay. And I can say that taxes is a major one of them. Okay. The utility tariffs is one of them. Okay. The cost of capital is another. Okay. The uncertainty in the environment is also another. So a couple of things, but all have an effect. Depending on which sector you operate within the manufacturing sector, the effect is felt differently depending on which of the variables are actually affected.
Thankfully, the deputy minister in charge of your sector is with me. Doc, how do you address his concern there? He's the man in charge of the trade.
Thank you very much. My regards to our two gentlemen who just spoke. Yeah. And in my opinion, they really spoke. They really spoke well. And whatever they have actually made mention of, I mean, they are facts. They are facts. I mean, it's something that you cannot actually engage them in any heated debate because they are realities. What I can say is that I think we have about three major areas we are handling tonight. One, talking about expenditure. It's about economic recovery or the economic situation.
Before you go to the big picture, though, because you're the deputy trade minister,
I'm going to where
I would love for you to address the Association of Ghana Industries.
That's what I'm going to address.
Then we can come to the big picture.
Preamble. Talking about expenditure of government, of course, and then talking about taxes, where I think their concentration is now, basically, because businesses, according to them, are suffering. And one of the major reasons being taxes or tax policy of this government or government of Ghana. We need to analyze them in a certain context. Of course, nobody wants to pay taxes. That's one. Two, if taxes are high, they are inimical to the performances of businesses all over the world. But then we need to also understand the fact that tax policies or taxes in nature are calibrated. When I say calibrated, it depends on your fiscal space, what is happening in your country in terms of your debt financing or otherwise, because every government finances its projects, goods, services, and even they are, when it comes to taxation, they are major ingredients of our social contract with the people. So it's something that once you forgo them, you need to borrow. Other than that, it will be very difficult, especially a country such as Ghana that we are import driven. We are, in fact, we have something that I describe as negative effective tax rate economy. That means that ritually, it doesn't matter who is in government. Even you put aside COVID and other things. Money's government outlay to the households, if you divide by all the houses in Ghana, and each of them gets, say, 10 cedis, money's government generate, excluding loans, you divide them among all the houses, each house will get less than the 10 Ghana cedis.
But do you, based on do you admit that you're overtaxing industries?
No, it depends. That's what I'm trying to explain. That's what I'm trying to explain. If you say that industries, the taxes are high, I'll agree. Depend on what is prevailing. But you can't say overtaxing them because taxes, even though I agree with the industries and the business actors, taxes, as I said, calibrated. It depends. Let me give this example, and I'm not trying to do politics. 2017.
Then don't do it.
No, I'm not. By giving a picture to explain what I'm saying.
No, but why do you want to go 2017? That's
no.
now.
I'm giving a picture to explain why sometimes taxes will have to go up or down. That's what I'm saying. It could have been any government. But 2017, you remember, tax components that were reduced or totally taken out of our system were amounted to about 17. That's what we dealt away with. Real estate, bank, is a financial service tax.
That was the first year of your.
Then after that, we introduced a lot of taxes and even came to e-levy. So the point I'm making is that it depends on your fiscal space. That one we should know. That is one thing that we should know.
Okay.
And then what happened is that, the post-COVID, our debt to GDP has gone so high that one of the major solutions we need in the short term up to medium term is to generate a lot of revenues internally, domestically. Other than that, we are in trouble.
Can you?
I'm coming.
What are you doing to address Chuma Kwabwa and his association's challenges? I think he would love.
But that is what I'm addressing now. Because first you should let them understand it. Once they understand the situation, I'm not saying what they are saying is wrong, and I'm not saying it is right. It is high, yes, but why it is high? Once they understand and they know that at this point in time, as a country, one of the solutions, even though they might be bitter pills, we need them now, at least for a long term, probably satisfaction or utility, or try to even consolidate the restoration of the economy that we are embarking on. So what I'm saying is that right now, the situation is extremely complex. Let's be very honest. If you tax, they are suffering. If you don't tax, the economy is breaking. Because apart from internally generated funds, there is no any other economic policy that within the shortest possible time you can use to solve the problem. For long term, I agree to all that you are saying. And probably what we can also do is to quickly be fast and deal with the leakages. Let me give you this example. One of the reasons manufacturing sector or industry is not doing well, apart from probably the tax issues, do you know that those who are even producing cables, electrical cables in Ghana, 3 major companies I know are starting to be corrected. I think Nexus and I think other 2. Now one of them has totally collapsed. Nexus is suffering now. The other one is operating at half speed. Do you know why?
Tell me.
Because the goods we actually import, the same goods of the same liquidity and risk factors that we import into this country, even retail price is even less than their direct production cost. And basically, of course, there could be other cost components, I agree with them. Basically, there is this thing about tax invasion. And because of that, they're able to get a margin of savings that makes their goods very cheap on the market. So the point that I'm making is that as much as I agree to what they are saying 100%, I mean, taxes are going up all over the world. I'm not
saying that you can't do anything about it for them in the interim.
But now I am. I'm operating within the trade industry. I can make contributions to that. But for now, even for how much? Let me say this to you. You know, he said policy rate is too high, which is true. I have my own technical explanation as to the inflationary targeting policy rate management. I have issues that we think anytime inflation is going up, increase it. I disagree because I think depends on what is actually causing that inflation, whether cost push or demand pull. Let's put that aside. Pick a developed economy such as UK. Base rate has been increased post-COVID over 1,800%.
I know. I mean, when we go to UK and start doing a comparison.
No, I'm not comparing.
I want to bring it back.
No, you're not getting my. What I'm saying
I
is
get
that
what you're saying.
I'm saying that all over the world, the issue of government raising funds and pulling money from the system to consolidate what has happened because of the disturbed fiscal space. Revenue generation internally has been one of the factors.
I get
and
it.
It affects the market and the market players.
That's true. But
I agree with the industry.
But also in those economies, when they're doing it, they also find a way to protect manufacturing and industry.
100%.
And that's the question I'm asking
100%.
you. At the ministry, for example, what is the policy to protect manufacturing, to protect industry, to give them some cushion? Whilst you say, yeah, we need to do this. Well, what's the policy?
When it comes to tax policies, you know it is not the responsibility of the ministry. Let's be very honest. What the ministry...
You're the trade ministry. You have to put in place the policies that will encourage and create.
So what I'm saying is we have other areas, but it's not the tax calibration. Yeah. That is basically not...
It must be a coordinated effort.
But you know it's not.
I know, so, primarily it's a...
So I am telling you what the industry is doing. The industry now...
As in your ministry?
Yes. Through GEA and other agencies are supporting various companies in Ghana in terms of capitalization. Trying to capitalize them to increase their liquidity and help them sustain and stabilize their businesses and grow. And this one, Trade Ministry is doing well in this direction. And sometimes also trying to organize some sort of orientation exercises for them. It's being done. And also still trying to consolidate these exercises about 1D, 1F, review and try to adjust and move it further. But when it comes to tax policies, we know probably we can make input in terms of, just as my brothers are doing, but the direct responsibility of who is supposed to either adjust taxes upwards or downwards, you know, it's not Trade Ministry.
Okay, stay with me.
What we can do is also find a way to also, apart from the fact that I agree that we should find a way to create margins to give them some sort of relief as industry, where I agree with them, for this short term, and have long-term plan that will help them reduce taxes.
What sort of relief are you planning to give them?
It's the question you're asking me. I'm providing solutions.
Yes.
You can't ask a deputy minister here, what relief are you giving? I can't give relief.
So I guess
we are finding solutions.
Let me rephrase. So you're proposing that a relief will be good.
Say, as much as I agree that we should find some form of relief. Trying to even capitalize them. It's a form of relief.
I guess.
Giving them education as to how they should adjust their business management. It's a relief.
Yes, you're a deputy minister.
But you can't ask, even you can't ask my minister, what is he doing about taxes to give them
No,
relief.
but once you mention relief, as in your position, you should be giving solutions. It shouldn't be proposals. It should be something you say, this is what we're going to do, right?
No, that is when you have the full capacity and tenacity doing that.
Don't have the capacity.
Don't push me. Oh, which deputy minister in anywhere in the world, and it's a deputy minister in charge of trade, say, I'm sitting here tonight, you're asking me, this is what I'm going to do. Don't push me.
That is what I was asking, what the ministry's policy
Can you help us do the analysis all of us doing to save Ghana, rather than trying to push me to a corner to say something which will not help us?
I'm only asking about solutions.
Solutions does not mean
and you propose one. And I'm asking you, is the ministry...
But you want to force me to say, this is what I want to do. That is wrong. I've even told you what the ministry is doing by capitalizing these industries. I've told you that. Okay. And organizing programs that will help them strategically to also adjust the way they manage things. I said that. So I'm saying that there could be margins of these relief and the other exercises that we can do. We are providing, so but if you say that, what I can do as a deputy minister, I don't have the tendency.
You misunderstand my question. I want to ask you. Please. When I ask you, I mean the ministry. You make a very important suggestion. Relief could help. So will the ministry, for example, consider that?
It's already doing that. If we're trying to capitalize some of them.
Okay.
One day, called a GA woman, Kosi. She's a very hardworking young woman. She will tell you what our ministry we've been doing about helping these. MSMEs, you understand, macro, medium, small size, and we are helping all of them. But I wouldn't say that is enough. Okay. And let me also come quickly.
Hold on.
I want to say maybe you answer.
I'm not going to him yet because I want to take a break. When I return, I'll hear from him on the proposals that
let me
offered.
end with this. If you can,
I'll come to you. We'll take a quick break. When I return, I'll hear from Sir Chuma Kwaba. He's head of minister. Whether that at least begins to get him to appreciate the work that you're doing, but also addresses his particular concern that he raised about the challenges that industry is facing. My guests are still with me here on PM Express. And we've been discussing a lot about the economy and the ministry. And I want to go to Sir Chuma Kwaba, who is the CEO of the Association of Ghana Industries. He said just before the break, he heard the Deputy Minister. I tried to get him to offer solutions to your specific concerns. Did you hear anything that gave you hope?
Well, I think one thing that I must admit is the fact that the minister really appreciated the challenges, and he admitted that indeed all that I enumerated in terms of the challenges that's affecting the manufacturing and industrial sector, he acknowledges it. And that, for me, that admission is good. It means that you appreciate what the challenge is. Now, what is the solution? And there are a few things he mentioned which I also side with him. For example, the influx of substandard products that is unfairly competing with the locally manufactured ones. And he cited the cable as an example. And that's a typical example we always cite. The cable industries is struggling today, not because they are not competitive in the production. Of course, they have all kinds of general challenges that we've mentioned. But some of these companies are so efficient. All of them are ISO certified. So their products can go anywhere in the world.
I mean, let's cut to the chase. Do you want the trade ministry to stop these imports and protect you?
No, our position has never been a ban on importation. We know that is not appropriate and that is not feasible under the current dispensation. That would be too much of an expectation. But what we want is a fair playing ground.
How do you get that? How do you get that?
Why should you allow? Yes. So imports of on substandard products. And because they are substandard, their prices are cheaper. Some are also smuggled into the market. They are not paying the right duties. They are maneuvering, and therefore the prices become cheaper. And if you cannot compete with them, then you lose market share. And that is a major challenge. And it's not just the cables. We are having the diapers, the oils, the textile companies have also been complaining about this all the time. So influx of this is a challenge, and I think that should be dealt with. These are some of the low-hanging fruits. There are also issues regarding even government procurement. These are areas that I didn't hear the minister mention, but that can also be used to help local industries. And I'll add that when you procure from local manufacturing companies, make efforts to pay. The major challenge most of these companies have, if you take the cable industries, most of them supply to, apart from the domestic market, the residential users. They also supply to institutions like ECG. How often and how well are they paid? Meanwhile, so those are all part of it. And then the issue of the taxes. Well, the minister didn't want to make commitments. I can understand that he's a trade minister and therefore he doesn't take decisions on policy. But I think that he can join us in the advocacy for a review of some of the tax measures. Okay. Because I think that they are really affecting industries. Okay. And he agrees that they are a challenge. And therefore, he must join the crusade.
It must follow to reduce the taxes for you. Let me get a quick word from him because I have a minute to go. My producer is screaming in my ear, I need to go. So he's just said it. What can you do for them in the areas of create a level playing field? I think that is in your domain.
But that is what I even said. I think the level field when it comes to taxes, it's not like government is directly or intentionally involved in creating that imbalance for other people to have undue advantage in terms of pricing policies on the market. Mind you, in the first place, we are practicing free market economy. So sometimes controlling prices will be very difficult. And then it's not deliberate attempt to let one actor within the same industry to have advantage because the person is not paying taxes. I think we as a government and every other stakeholder should help the government to ensure that those who are evading taxes in Ghana will find a way to halt that antisocial behavior because it's really costing us a lot. And then what I also agree with him 100% is government increasing its effort in making sure that we procure from the local producers so that they can also grow and expand.
So that's an assurance you can give.
Yeah, Another area we should also look at as a government is this thing about government competing with the private sector on the market for funds from the banks. It has been one of the technical reasons that the cost of doing business is high. So I think these areas, government will begin to look at these areas very well and redefine new paradigm shift and work closely with the industry actors and other relevant stakeholders to ensure that these problems are dealt with or resolved in a way that we can really design going forward an environment that will be fair, that will be free, that will enhance the growth and the stability of our industries. I think it's very, very
and next week we'll get a first sign of this in the budget. Enjoy the rest of the evening.